Today, we're really happy to have with us Leslie Lam, CMO of Coinflex. Leslie is now in Dubai. Welcome, Leslie.
Thanks so much for having me, Jessica.
Oh, it's great to be able to speak to you. And actually, now that you don't have your headphones on, you look a little different from the last time we spoke. I think your headphones are your signature piece, I think.
I call them my helicopter headphones that I use for podcasting.
Oh, it's also for the what do you call it? Sound noise reduction, right? Is that part of the?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I've been sort of testing it out, see what works, but today I figured would do without these big headphones on.
Ah, they look really cool. This is Leslie's signature look. So anyway, I'm really glad to have you with us today. As you're aware, this is a part of our Crypto Women Trailblazers campaign in Hong Kong. And we're really happy and proud to have you as one of our cover women. So perhaps you could just share with our audience a little bit about your background, what it is you do now within Coinflex, and what brought you into the crypto space.
Absolutely. So first of all, I've been a long time crypto enthusiast, but it really didn't start from the crypto space. My background is more from the traditional financial side of things, working in wealth management back in New York with multi-generational families and private business owners. But it was during that time that really the crypto space started to get more attention from the public, not yet from mainstream, but from certainly the technologists of the space that really helped to, grow the ecosystem, right? And so with a growing market, there is naturally growing interest, both from my side, but also within my larger friend group as well about this space. And so when I moved to, sorry.
Okay.
And when I moved to London, basically the idea was that, I wanted to really explore this space and take advantage of the opportunity of, having this time of applying for my work visa, waiting for opportunities to come, to explore this new space that no one really had ventured into. And so this was around 2018 that I went more full-time into the crypto space, but it really wasn't until I moved to Hong Kong at the end of 2018. So my life in London was very, very short, but it wasn't until I moved to Hong Kong that I kind of got introduced to a really vibrant community of crypto traders and investors, right? For those who are tuning in from Hong Kong, that, the crypto chit chat has been around for quite a few years because it's such a developed market compared to a lot of other markets and regions, specifically because there are lots of trading firms and exchanges that started really their journey in Hong Kong or had and have headquarters in the city. And so it was really through this kind of experience of meeting tons of people in the space that I then moved on full-time working at a company called Amber Group, building up their sales side of things, and eventually kind of moved into marketing, and then really took advantage of an opportunistic, situation with Coinflex here, with the company, growing, I would say, fourfold over the time. And, I came in more to help really on the marketing side to bring forward what we were doing in the space to the public, right? Because as you know, it's one thing to build out products, and it's another to actually be able to deliver this to the right people. And so that's what I do at Coinflex right now, and happy to dive more into that.
Perhaps you could share with us exactly what Coinflex is about. Where are you guys now, and where do you think you're headed?
Absolutely. So Coinflex is a crypto exchange and yield platform for passive capital investors, right? People like me and you who aren't sitting in front of a screen trading all day, but also for active traders as well, of course. And, the company has been around since 2019 and is led by two co-founders who combine, have a decade of experience running crypto exchanges, as well as having a background in traditional finance. And so really where Coinflex is headed is expanding across markets. So we have been very present in the Asia markets, but right now we are launching Coinflex US, so tapping into the large US market, right? There's a lot of interest there, lots of dollars. And so we're bringing forward one of our flagship products called Flex USD, which is the first interest earning stablecoin to pay interest every 8 hours. We're bringing this product into the United States so that, you know, we can service Americans and grow our user base there.
Maybe you could go back a little and explain a little about how this all works, because I would like to say many of our audience, they're non-crypto natives. So coming back to Flex USD, how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So Flex USD is a stablecoin that is pegged 1-to-1 for USD, which means that when you create or mint Flex USD, you can redeem it back into USD or USDC, which is another stablecoin. And one of the biggest things about stablecoins is that it brings the utility narrative of crypto into focus. Because if you think about crypto, a lot of the times the narrative is moonshot bets, right? Investing in speculative assets and hoping that over the long term, you see that price appreciation and therefore a growing portfolio. And you're kind of, you know, really beholden to the moves in the market, right, for the coins that you invest in. But for something like stable coins, where the goal is not to increase the price, right? The price is stable 1-to-1 for a fiat asset like USD. In that case, it's really about using stable coins for payments, using stable coins to trade in and out of coins. And so really the trading aspect is where we've seen the most utility in stable coins. But what we're seeing, you know, the kind of use case grow right now is for payments on a peer-to-peer basis and also cross-border as well.
Wow. Just listening to you talk in detail, making something which I think is really complicated sounds so not simple, but so structured and easy to digest. I think it says a lot for you and the way you're able to articulate your thoughts and your depth of knowledge in the market. As a woman, how has it been for you in this pretty male dominant sector? I mean, have there been a lot of opportunities for you? Have you seen a lot of strong female peers also?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting journey, to say the least, because I've seen many different cycles of this market. I've also seen the growth of the community, right? The global community. When I first got into crypto, this was maybe around 2013, 2014. No way I was going to meet another woman at a meetup. That was an expectation of mine, right? I was going to be one of a handful, if not the only person, only woman in the room. But fast forward, I say, you know, after the 2017 bull market, what we saw was just more mainstream interest in the space, not necessarily about the technology aspect of crypto, but really about how crypto then fits into this larger narrative of, for example, portfolio management, of being able to grow my wealth, right, with this new asset class, and people starting to get interested, you know, about crypto the same way maybe when the boom of the stock market happened, people got really interested in understanding how equities could help, you know, grow their overall wealth. And so, you know, right now what we're seeing is significantly more women in the space. I'm a part of a group called W3W. So it's called Web3 Women. And we're really focusing on harnessing senior female leadership with a focus on Asia specifically. Most of the group consists of women who are in Hong Kong, across Singapore. Myself, I'm the odd person out here in Dubai, but representing Hong Kong. So it's a group of us trying really to figure out what, number one, it takes to, be able to motivate a lot of females in peripheral industries to come into the space, emerging leaders. That's number one. But number two, also start to explore what leadership in Web3 looks like. Because it's not very clear at this point that it follows exactly how you would understand, corporate leadership to look like in the more Web2 world, right? At a bank, for example. And so these are just from a high level, two of the areas that we're trying to explore. But the fact that I am part of a group now with, over 20, 30 ladies in the space is an indicator that we've seen significant growth, right? From women.
No, that's really exciting. Actually, after we have this chat of ours, we should have a separate conversation, because I think part of why we're doing this big editorial campaign is to really enable and attract attention for women of all ages, from all different backgrounds, to understand that there are other opportunities out there. And I feel like even if you're not involved with it, to have the knowledge is a start to have even just a little taste, because I think for many women there's a huge fear factor. I mean, not just women. I think it's just people who don't know, they've never dealt with crypto. Then there's a fear factor because they don't understand it. And from what I understand, you guys do a lot of education. I've been on the Coinflex website. There's so many videos, and I think it's all very. I see that the environment is very nurturing and in attracting more talent and more interest. So what kind of talent do you think the sector is missing now, or should attract more of?
Yeah, so I would be biased, right? Because I spent all of my time really looking after strategy and execution for our marketing efforts. I'm really trying to, figure out what Web3 marketing looks like, right? Because everything from branding to community building to PR and communication, that's all being disrupted right now by crypto, believe it or not. And that has nothing to do with the price of a coin going up or down, right? It goes back to how fundamentally the technology of crypto and also the narrative of crypto together are starting to change the way people think about the status quo of doing something, executing a strategy, right? So we see big brands, Gucci, Balenciaga, Dolce & Gabbana in this space, specifically trying to figure out what it means to leverage NFTs to reach this new generation of consumers, right? That's not something we would have expected back in, call it 2016, 2017, right? It was all about crypto trading. And so because of this changing narrative, what we're really starting to see right now is, flipping the script for a lot of industries. And I think from my side, if we can have more marketers coming in from these peripheral industries, whether it be finance, technology, something completely different, maybe the creative industry, and start to transition into understanding and experimenting with Web3 technologies and tools, we'll really start to see more innovative campaigns across the board, and therefore more innovative brands.
Actually, now that we're having this discussion, this is what I was talking to the team about during this week. Just we are in the space of much more traditional media, print, and even traditional digital media, and the discussion is just, okay, what we know that we have to step into this area, the zone, but it's so just where do we start? And for us, we have all of the traditional talents within our team, within our corporation, but how are we going to attract the people who are really energetic in your blockchain world to want to work with us boring old people who do traditional stuff? And I think at the point where all of this is able to bridge, that's when blockchain technology is going to be completely infiltrated into our life. When everything's there's a crossover for everything, in terms of talent and how things are structured, like you said, how marketing campaigns are executed. Yeah.
Mhm.
I need you to come back to Hong Kong so we can have a good chat face to face.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would even say it's not about Web3 tooling replacing the way that you've been doing things, right?
Yeah.
It's really starting out small, as with anything, investing, right, into understanding what the ecosystem has to offer, looking out at what other brands are doing, and not trying to reinvent the wheel necessarily in any way, but saying, hey, this worked out for this other brand or this other traditional media platform. Look at Time Magazine. Time Magazine has recorded record profits. And it's not because they're selling more physical magazines or they've gotten more digital subscriptions, but it's because they've really gone out there, it seems like away from how most other magazines are doing things these days, and saying, look, we're going to trial NFTing the cover of very important magazines, featuring people within the Web3 ecosystem, and really trying to have dialogue with thought leaders in the space to make sure that they understand, we're aware, right? And that we, placing us as a traditional media brand, for example, on the map, so that the Web3 people know there is interest. Because otherwise, if you're just exploring this internally, no one knows, right, where that interest is coming from.
Okay, hold that thought, because that's exactly where we want to be. That is, again, one of the other reasons why, other than bringing this new sector, this new industry to women as another way of empowering them and inspiring them, our goal is to be able to be relevant for women in this space. That's our ultimate goal. We've worked with women from many different industries, but this being at the forefront, it's moving so fast. We don't want to be left behind. We want to be part of the journey. Yeah, I mean, I've been experimenting a lot recently, especially since I've been speaking to all of you and doing all my homework. And I know it's just the surface, but every day there's something new, something to learn. What might be old for you is still new to me, and it's a catch up. But then the flip side, or the good, I suppose, the opportunity is that things change really quickly. So whatever was relevant a while back may no longer be relevant now. So at least we all start from zero again together and keep running.
Yeah. I mean, it's continual experimentation, right? Of figuring out what works within crypto, because it's not like every single project that, gets released into the market is a winning project, right? That's also the reality of the space as well. We're thrown a lot of headlines, and it makes it seem like every single NFT project is like a Bored Ape project,
yeah, we wish.
And that as soon as you just release an NFT collection, somehow, you're just going to become a millionaire or multimillionaire, by flipping these NFTs, right? But really, it's not about that narrative, because as we know, every vertical within the space is susceptible to market corrections, right? Every vertical is susceptible to, this kind of trial and error, because that's what this whole Web3 space is about, experimenting. But what's really important is we have, companies like Jessica, right? Jessica Magazine, one, being willing to just hear what we have to say, and not just like, oh, that's a part of the industry we don't understand, therefore we don't want to venture in that direction because we're afraid of what we might find, right? Or we're afraid of investing time in something that maybe our audience doesn't care about. I think for you guys, what's been really interesting is trying to figure out what narrative within crypto resonates the most with your existing audience, how we can take the content to your existing readers in a way that is inviting, is accessible, and gets them to understand crypto, again, not necessarily through a trading or super technical perspective, but through relatable narratives, through stories of how, individuals, across the campaign started their careers, whether it be in crypto or prior to crypto, and why Web3 is impactful to us as individuals. Because I think stories are, at the end of the day, what we relate to most. It's not the facts, right?
It's true. That is what media is
or
about.
anything like that. Yeah.
it's storytelling and being able to motivate people and, you know, touch their, what do you call it, their finer nerve endings, so that they're motivated to do certain things. Yeah, I think that also makes it really exciting for us to be able to talk with you guys. I mean, in many aspects, when we first contemplated the project, we thought perhaps maybe the crypto people would not be wanting to have too much association with traditional industries. But anyway, it turns out that, you know, I think this is the perfect opportunity for all of us to be able to share our stories. Just another question. Actually, you brought the topic up earlier on about crypto being important to building wealth or as a wealth management tool. It was something that cropped up before you fully immersed yourself in the crypto sphere. Could you maybe share a little bit more about your perspective on this?
Yeah, this is where I spend a lot of my time trying to understand when I have these podcast conversations with institutional investors, for example. And the reason why I focus on this sort of institutional space is because they technically are the slower moving, you know, compared to the retail audience, right? And the reason why institutions are getting into the space, the reason why that's so important is because that is a point of credibility that crypto matters. And the narrative for a lot of these institutional investors who do have individuals, high net worths, right, that are invested into a fund, for example. You know, the reason why it's so important that the institutions are getting into this space is because they're helping to educate these individuals who then have children, for example, who, you know, might be excited, and they can start to bridge that, you know, communication around crypto, because now they are trying to get into the space from a wealth building, wealth management perspective. And so the kind of common thread that I've seen across the institutional space is that, you know, crypto isn't added to a portfolio just because there's this recommendation across the board that if you put a little bit of your assets in, that, you know, it's a good idea, right? It's definitely not something arbitrary like that. The reason that crypto makes sense for a modern portfolio is because of the way that it allows for portfolios to achieve proper risk-adjusted returns, because the sort of traditional space, if you want to think about equities and bonds, it's because those asset classes don't offer the same types of returns that they once did decades ago, or even the, you know, the beginning of the last decade, right? We're in the kind of later stages of a bull run. I don't even know what to call what we're in, but it's in a prolonged, you know, bull run market that I imagine is, you know, like positioned for somewhat of a correction. And so for these guys, it's more a matter of risk diversification, right? Should the macro factors of high inflation and low interest rates globally continue with things like this, you know, Ukraine war, that at least from a portfolio perspective, they're able to, you know, hedge these macro factors in the right way, that they start to, I don't really want to say experiment, but it's really to, you know, kind of observe how adding this percentage of crypto, right, into a portfolio, you know, makes sense for, you know, certain types of investors. And then from, you know, observing that for 1 year, for example, understanding how they can scale that up to other types of investors that they service. So from an institutional perspective, because we've been seeing greater adoption, that is bringing more credibility into the space. And I think for the retail investor who's looking at, you know, their Robinhood app, for example, you know, or SoFi app, and, you know, seeing that, wow, crypto's added as an asset class that they can invest in, you know, that is an indicator, again, of credibility, that these platforms deem crypto important enough to the average investor that they would recommend them on the platform as another investment opportunity. So on both sides of the spectrum, right, we're seeing greater interest and greater adoption. And I would imagine, if we're speaking 1 year from now, both sides have exploded, even more than they already have.
So beyond the investment perspective, where else do you see blockchain technology or crypto becoming relevant in our daily lives?
I think it's payments. If we look at a country, right, like Hong Kong, we have so many individuals in Hong Kong who have to deal with cross-border payments.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest pain points really are the fees, right? The fees associated with foreign exchange transactions. You work so hard to earn your income, and at the end of the day, when you send that, across to a family, or friend, that income is being eaten away purely because of fees. And you're just wondering about the inefficiencies of how this process works, right? Of how the traditional banking sector doesn't cater to the average individual, to be honest. And that's where crypto comes in, disintermediating this process, and making these kinds of toolings, financial toolings, a lot more efficient for the everyday person, right? It's not just for the rich and the wealthy. And so with stablecoins, and the reason why I kind of explained a little bit about that in the beginning, is because this technology really allows for people to make seamless transactions on a peer-to-peer basis in a way that doesn't eat away at hard-earned income, that in a way that's done really quickly, compared to, I've sent out a wire transaction, or I've sent out some sort of ACH payment, for example, and wow, I have to wait a couple days for that to actually be deposited in the beneficiary bank account. Sometimes it doesn't even happen, and then you're
not really sure if they get it. Yes.
You don't get an answer, right? And you have to call customer support. In this case, right, when you're using stablecoins, I mean, it's either made it or it's not, because you sent it to the wrong address, right? There is no intermediary to call. So that might be scary to some people, because it
was scary the first time I sent a payment through.
Yeah, right. So you kind of have to get familiar with that process. Exactly, right? Like the behavior, the way of doing things has to improve in crypto for a fact. The UX, this user experience definitely has to improve to match the ways that people understand and are doing things now within the traditional banking sector. It can't be, completely 180, for the average person. And so I think that is improving, and there are wallets and tools, more wallets and tools now than ever before that again support crypto assets like stablecoins that people can use, and feel like they're sending a payment in the same way that they're sending a wire transaction, out from their traditional bank sector or traditional bank account.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think payments is going to be a big thing. I mean, I know previously with, say, for example, Tesla, when they said they were willing to take, was it Bitcoin that they were willing to take for payment for their cars? I just read today in the news, Gucci has 5 of its shops in the US that's going to be taking crypto. It didn't specifically say which currency, but I just thought, well, I mean, Gucci is quite fast forward. They're forward moving with being in the application of Web3 and being in that space. But I was just like, wow, okay, I didn't expect that so soon. You saw it coming, but just not that fast. So yeah, I feel like it's a huge tidal wave just sort of in your face.
No, absolutely. And Off-White, right? Off-White, which is a brand that was bought by LVMH.
Oh, I love Off-White.
They similarly, but this was a few months ago. Gucci, I think, was much more recent, right? It was just like yesterday or the day before. So both companies are starting to accept Bitcoin, Ethereum. I believe Gucci is accepting BCH, which is great for that community. And also stablecoins, right? 5 different types of stablecoins for Gucci. And you look at the kind of realm of crypto assets that they do accept, and 5 of them are stablecoins. I mean, that's saying something, right?
Yes.
And it's playing again into that payments utility, that no, you don't just get into crypto because you want to make a bunch of money from some random coin that you don't know anything about, but hope will perform really well. But instead, you're using crypto to make these purchases that you would otherwise be using fiat currencies, to make. And that by doing so, maybe, you're kind of brought into the crypto narrative because you have to have a wallet if you have these crypto assets, right? In order to transfer it to a wallet owned by Gucci, you have to actually buy the asset in order to make that payment, right? So that's two levels of knowledge that you just have to be able to understand if you're wanting to explore that route. So it's brands like Gucci, for example, who are really trying to take crypto more mainstream by, accepting crypto as payments. And that's what's exciting, is because it's relatable, it's understandable to the average person.
It's within reach.
It's within reach, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, it's. I mean, crypto being such an intangible kind of asset, when it becomes tangible, it's much more easy for people to associate or get their heads around, so to speak.
Yeah. So how cool would it be to, show off, right? Hey, I've just got this bag. I bought it with Bitcoin. And then, you tell your friends about it and they're like, how did that happen? And then that's an inviting opportunity, right? For you as an individual to, kind of pass on that knowledge. And word of mouth, as you know, is by far the most effective way, right, for brands to get the word out. Is if you have a community of people who will talk on your behalf, who will market on your behalf, because they just like you, right? They want to see you succeed because they personally benefit as a consumer, right? And want to be a part of this community. It's like when you have tons of people who are, just so excited about what you're doing, that's when you win as a brand. And that's what crypto is enabling a lot of these kind of brands to do. It's kind of like a 2.0 for some of these guys who, maybe only service one segment of the market, right? The luxury, maybe older generations, and are now really utilizing crypto to tap into this kind of younger generation. And they're seeing that, and that's proof.
Yeah, that is just, it makes it also really exciting. With the speed at which you guys work, I mean, the crypto world is 24/7. You don't rest, or do you? Do you get time to rest?
I try to find time. Yeah.
And what do you do in your spare time? DJing? Maybe share a little about your DJing.
DJing more, definitely. When I was in Hong Kong, I took classes actually, because this was during this kind of, COVID period, right? I was trying to figure out, okay, I have the peak that I can go and hike, right? And make that, make that trek up and down. Great. I can do that every Saturday. I can try to go to the beach. Okay. But then
when it's open.
What else? Yeah. When it's open, right? Or you can go to the mall, watch a movie. But at some point you're like, what can I do, with my time right now that, one, I really love and want to explore, that I've always been wanting to do, that will actually be able to, be something that I don't know, kind of harness in terms of a skill set, right? Over the long term. And so that's where I thought, hey, DJing is so cool. I've always wanted to do it. It's such a opportunity to improvise as well, which I think is the beauty. There's no script. There's no manual for, what song you play and in this way, and it's supposed to be exactly how it's written on the manuscript, right? It's not like, playing traditional piano performance. And so when it comes to DJing, it's really about just like using your creativity, right, to make others happy and excited, to create a vibe for people, right? This might be a sort of common thread that you're seeing. I like being behind the mic as a host more so than a guest.
You're great. You're great at talking. Very articulate.
I like sitting behind a mic. I like kind of being behind the table, behind a platform, trying to cater a good experience, trying to curate a story, right? And that challenge is something that just kind of like fits more of my personality. There are definitely others who are out there, being the sort of party maker, right? And really, loves being on the other end and dancing and all of that stuff. But for me, I've always kind of tended to be, more on the other side where I'm just, trying to figure out, great, how do I just allow people to have a good time, right? What are the different ways to do that? One is definitely more, academic is not the right word, but more traditional, right? Kind of educational. Okay, that's the word. More educational, right?
Yes.
But the other way is entertainment, right?
Yes.
And the mix of which is edutainment, which is where I would love to get to in the future. Is when we're explaining crypto, it doesn't always have to be, hey, listen to this deep dive, understand the jargon, kind of like don't do anything else and just listen to, a podcast episode. Why can't it be fun? Why can't it be a mix of music and entertainment in the beginning, drawing people in on a live stream, right? And, bring someone onto the podcast who maybe is from the creative industry, and then chatting about their experience getting into crypto. Again, making the narrative accessible, right? And then ending with some music. Why can't that be your average podcast episode talking about crypto?
That would be your average podcast.
That's something I was definitely trying to explore. And then, I have great colleagues in Hong Kong who, have access to my DJ set that has been left there. But we've actually just hired someone who has been a long time DJ in Hong Kong. His name is DJ Fu. He has performed at any venue you can think of in Hong Kong. He's been there for decades now. But for someone like him, he has now joined Web3, and he's so excited to be able to mix these professions together.
Yes.
So to those of you out there who are kind of still questioning whether crypto is an opportunity that I should explore professionally, just know that you don't have to have that perfect, crypto CV. I don't even know if that exists, for example.
That's to say, what do you need on a perfect crypto CV?
No, to be honest. Yeah, like what do you need is curiosity. What you need for, that's like foundationally what you need. Of course, if you want to go on and, become a developer for a blockchain project, sure, you do need the technical skill set to do that. And that's why we've seen so many engineers come from the traditional tech space and even finance, really, utilizing their experience, but in a just much more creative way because they have more ownership, in the product that they're building. So we're definitely seeing that. But in terms of, what else, if not the technical side, right? If we're talking to the non-technical crowd, they're like, okay, I'm in marketing, or I'm in fashion, I'm in music. I don't really know how this relates to crypto. Well, just look at where the NFT space is right now, right? It's allowing musicians to monetize their career in a new way, yes. And whatever roles you find in the music industry, guarantee you'll start to find that now within the Web3 space as well, as more tooling gets built out. In the fashion space, we've already talked about it. Big brands are coming in, right? And trying to experiment with, ways of reaching new segments. That is a whole nother industry that you can be involved in, right? Yes. There are digital fashion projects and companies now. Companies who create fashion, clothing for avatars that are being used in the metaverse. There's no physical supply chain to consider there. It is purely the creativity of, bring a very legacy space like fashion and kind of transforming it in new ways, right? Yeah. And working with big IPs, that's a whole nother space. And, for marketing, I already mentioned in the beginning, right? There's so many different verticals within marketing that are being disrupted right now. There are groups of PR professionals, copywriters, brand managers, content creators, all in these Discord groups talking together about, how things within the industry can change using Web3 tools. And there's so many people who are asking the same questions. And that is a great thing. because again, that's validation that so many people are on the same page of, I need to understand what the space is offering before I get left behind, right? And when you have this critical mass, when you build that up, there's no way of ignoring it, right? So more groups, have to cater to these individuals who want to be a part of this for educational purposes and eventually for execution purposes, right?
So just one last question for you today. You're in Dubai now. What's going on in Dubai? I mean, I have so many friends who are there. It's just, traditional and people in crypto. What's so happening in Dubai? Could you let us know a little?
Absolutely. The crypto community is growing in Dubai in a rate that I couldn't even imagine when I landed here in January. We are seeing big companies who have already an established reputation in the space coming to Dubai because they know that this is the next frontier. Unlike in the US, for example, where, there's already, I think, like 25% adoption of crypto across Americans, and where there's kind of this bias. Okay, yes, I use this platform. Of course, I know that platform. There isn't anything like that here in Dubai. The general population is still very much crypto unaware, right? The crypto curious still don't have a whole ton of toolings and platforms to leverage because there just aren't as many companies here yet. So right now, what we're seeing with the formation of this new regulatory body, for virtual assets called VARA, Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority. With the establishment of this body, we are seeing companies, indicating interest and actually moving on it. Because again, they know if you don't move now, you're going to be kind of left behind in a second or third cohort. And really what you want to be doing is working with regulators, right? To build out a proper regulatory framework that sends a clear message to companies looking to get into, this market that, hey, you can be here. And these are the guidelines. This is what you have to do, right? And drafting this clear communication, I think, is the next step now that the regulatory body has been formed. And so anyways, because of this, lots of companies now have either already set up offices or in the process of doing that, sending people here. And so what we would expect is many more conferences and meetups in Dubai over the coming year. I think that is absolutely no question. And there's going to be a lot more interest generally, I think, in the Middle East. Asia is very much a tapped market. Again, as I mentioned, US is a tapped market. Europe, we're already seeing tons of companies across the board, form there and build communities there. But when it comes to the Middle East, it's relatively untapped. And this is why this new frontier is so exciting for us, right? I mentioned at the top of the conversation, Coinflex is, really looking to grow markets, grow awareness of crypto to different groups of people in different regions. And so the Middle East is somewhere where we think there's really this untapped potential. These people deserve companies and platforms that have proper product offerings, right? So that they can, start to get into the space, in the same ways other people have. And so that's why we're so excited to be in Dubai, with really forward-thinking regulators. VARA actually, I'll make this one point. They actually just bought a plot of land in Sandbox, the metaverse. And to the average person looking at that headline, I'm like, what does that mean? Imagine if the SEC bought a plot of land in the same metaverse and was like, now we're going to conduct business here. Or the SFC, right? In Hong Kong. That would make people sort of scratch their heads like, what does the metaverse have to do with regulation? And then venture down that whole path, which we won't do today. But, that's just a flavor of the merging of different industries, merging of different verticals. And there are traditional players now, even regulatory, bodies who want to get into this space so that they can be better educated on how to regulate.
Yes.
Right? It's not enforcement first without understanding. It's, proper awareness of what's going on in order to be able to carry out proper, a proper regulatory framework. And, the space welcomes that at the end of the day, because again, it brings more credibility to what we're doing.
I feel so much of your energy, even though we're miles apart and only on the same screen together. But I love it. It really makes, I was saying this to some of my friends who are out in Dubai now. We're all the same age. Our kids go to school together. And I said to them, what makes this really exciting for people our age is that we've already had our first or possibly even second career. But this is an opportunity for even us older people to start from zero again and feel like, if we have the energy, that we're in our early 20s and can start something really new, exciting, and it's not going to peak any moment soon. And there's just so much more ahead for everybody. And I really feel your energy. Talking to Angelina, Cynthia, Natalie, so much energy. I also hats off to all of you. Your resilience in a more male dominant sector, and the work that you guys do together to educate the general public, enabling women, and it's super exciting for me. So I'm really glad that I was able to do the interview with you, and that we're able to share up to today. But I'm sure in the near future we'll be tuning in with you again. And probably lots of questions. Yeah, lots of questions.
Yeah, I mean, I can't thank you enough for dedicating a whole magazine, this month to exploring this space. It's truly, an effort to not only curate the content, but to do the preparation of figuring out, again, as I mentioned earlier, how to make what we're doing in the crypto space relevant to your audience, right? That at the end of the day is the goal. If no one, if not one person cares about crypto more after this series goes out, then, we have a lot of work to do, right? But, I imagine that's not going to be the case. I imagine there's going to be a flood of questions coming from your existing readers, wanting to learn more about the space, and you can highlight other individuals working on other, types of things within the ecosystem. And really, that's what we would all love, building this network effect, and also building the network, in and of itself, of women who are interested. And hopefully, if they're interested, they're coming into this space and becoming leaders. That's what I would love to see.
I would really love to invite you, all of you on our cover of this issue, to be as our advisors to this connection. It's so, I feel your energy, and it just makes me feel like I'm butt lazy most of the time, because you guys work so hard. And yeah, just super excited to be part of this. Yeah. So thanks so much for your time today. And I'm glad you're better.
Yeah. Thank you, Jessica.
Thanks
for having me.